Pedro from A&P-REACTS. I'm here today with Avienne from Vintersea. How's it going?
It's going great here. Hi, Pedro.
It's a
Thanks for having
pleasure.
me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure having you on the channel. Thank you for taking the time. I've been dying to chat with you since we first watched one of your first videos.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to chat with you and to chat music too. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. So that's awesome. And I'm glad it's with you, Pedro.
Yeah,
I can't help it. I'm just excited today.
everything is coming together. So we're here to talk about the 5 most influential albums to you. Now, you kind of went back and forth a little bit on your list, but we narrowed it down to the 5. And I know this is tough because I'm sure probably you had like 20 that you wanted to put on the list, right?
Yes, definitely. When you mentioned the 5 most influential, like it was so hard because I mean, and I thought really long and really hard about it. But it was like, this is the most influential, not necessarily my most favorite albums, right? It's like the ones that I listen to that like really either changed my life or changed the way I view music or my taste in music. So it was
100%.
hard to narrow down, but I eventually got there.
Yeah, it's funny that when I talk to people about these lists, not always your favorite albums are the ones that influence you the most.
Exactly.
You know, which is kind of like strange because you always think that if they're your favorites, that means they probably had a huge influence on your taste, but the two are not necessarily the same thing. I could do a list of my favorite 5 albums and my most influential albums, and the two lists I don't think would have any album that would cross to each other, you know?
Yes, there's like 1 or 2 that cross on this list, but pretty much it's all like albums from my past that really just ignited or just changed something.
So before we get started with this list, I want to ask you a little bit more. I want to get to know you a little bit better. And I want the people that are watching this video to get to know you a little bit better. So at what point did you get into music? Since you were a kid, you were always into music, or there was a specific point in time that you said, you know what, I want to sing in a metal band. That's what I want to do.
I've always been into music as long as I can remember. I was one of those kids that like couldn't shut up, but not just couldn't shut up in a way that I couldn't stop talking, but I couldn't stop singing. And ever since I was a kid, like I would be the one that would sing pretty loud. I wouldn't want to say the loudest, but it really could have been. And I think that's one of the reasons why I got kicked out of choir when I was a kid, because they were like, no, you have to blend in with everyone else. You can't just sing at the top of your lungs, but it's okay. I found my way to do it.
Were you always with a goal in mind that you wanted to be in a band, or you thought maybe, you know, because you love to sing, maybe you thought, oh, I can have a solo career, I can just sing on my own?
Oh, I've had a lot of influences over the years, and I've always loved singing and I've always loved dancing. I've had a dance background. I did ballet and jazz and tap dance in school. So there was always been a little bit of a performer in me, and I like to implement a little bit of that into the metal music, to the music that I produce. But yeah, I've always loved doing it, and I've always loved performing. It's just something that came really natural to me and that I've always enjoyed.
Did you take classes, like singing classes or anything like that?
So my extent of learning how to sing, I would say, was in college when I was in a all ladies a cappella group called Divine from Oregon State University.
Like Perfect Pitch?
I haven't watched it,
but
are you
kidding me?
It's no.
Even I have watched, like, it's one of my guilty pleasures. I think I've seen all of them. In the first one, I think I've seen over 50 times.
Oh my, okay. I gotta get into that then, because that was that's what people tend to relate it the most. At least the a cappella group that I was in is similar to like the Perfect Pitch status. But that was really fun. There were a lot of amazing like ladies that I sang with, and I learned so much from them. But beyond that, I haven't taken any formal lessons, and I haven't taken any lessons, especially in screaming. not to say that I wouldn't be like down to learn and, you know, expand my knowledge, but I'm always trying to do that anyway.
Was your family supportive of you the moment that they saw that you had this little performer in you and you always looking for that spotlight, either to be for your dancing or your singing? Were they behind you 100%?
Yeah, I would say that they're my biggest fans. Back when I did all the singing and dancing, and I was a cheerleader in high school too. So I did a little bit of that. I actually was at my senior year, is that what you call it? Like my last year of secondary school, I was the captain of my cheerleading team. So anytime I did any of those performances, my parents will always be there. And I know if they were here, they would probably go to every show we have here too. But yeah, everyone has been really supportive, and I couldn't be more thankful for their support.
How much of Vintersea do they know? Like, have they heard you doing a lot of those screaming vocals, those harsh vocals, and do they look at you like, where do you get that from?
Where do I get screaming from?
Like, do they ask you that? Like, where does that evil voice come from? Like, do they question you about it?
I mean, Pedro, there's only one answer, and the answer is Satan. I've always loved doing it. Actually, no, and one of the first album we're gonna talk about is probably the first album that made me want to learn screaming. I mean, to the detriment of my whole family, because I do it in my room and like just try to emulate a lot of the artists that I listen to. So I just started doing it, and I mean, of course, there was like a lot of judgment in the country I grew up in, Malaysia, because it's very conservative there. But my parents have always been has always allowed me to find that freedom of expression, be it through dance or acting or singing. It's always been something that I've experimented in and always loved to do.
And here you are.
Here I am, yeah.
How before we get into the albums, I have one more question for you, and that is, how did you and the band, how did it all get started? For those that don't know the early stages, the early beginnings of the band, how did it all come about? How did you guys find each other?
Oh, through the beauty of the internet and Craigslist.
Craigslist.
The wonderful world of Craigslist, the good old days. So when I first moved to Oregon for to go to school, I moved here. All I had was 2 bags with me. I didn't know anyone here. I didn't have any friends, but even when I moved here, I've always loved metal, and I'm like, well, I gotta find some friends here, you know, maybe there'll be a show, and, you know, I don't drive. I may need a ride or something, and we can all be buddies and just, you know, go to the metal shows here. So I've always been searching for people that had that same interest as me. And I've actually been ready with joining the band here. And again, that's something I'll one of the albums here has been instrumental in that. Which I will talk about. So I moved here, and then I saw a post on Craigslist, and they were looking for a new vocalist, and I checked it out. I'm like, hey, you know, I could jam out to this. If they knew I was like doing this to their music, they probably wouldn't have let me into the band. So I answered that Craigslist ad, and so did our lead guitarist Jorma. So we both answered the same Craigslist ad, and that's how we met Riley, our guitarist, and Jeremy, the drummer. So we were Asterion first. And when we did our Gravity of Fall album, the first music video that we shot for that album, we had Carl Winery. He's an amazing videographer, bassist, and he's a good dude as well. I mean, and that's how we met him. And once we had everyone, it was like, yeah, this is us. It was very natural. It just all kind of like came together, and it was nice. Like the search was over.
Craigslist. Wow. I mean,
yeah, I'm so happy. I lived and survive through that story to tell that story today, because you know, who knows what could have happened, right?
I mean, where were you looking on Craigslist to find the listing for? Were you looking for something along the lines of singer wanted, or you're looking for
No.
like furniture for your apartment, and then you came across?
Yes, it was both furniture, you know, looking for places to live, you know, it was also entertainment as well. I mean, Craigslist back in the day was fun, wasn't it? The M for F, and then M for M, you know, people looking for each other. I just had a lot of fun just browsing the different posts. And then one day I happened to come across the posts of them looking for vocalists. So I mean, the timing just it was right.
Was in the stars.
It was in the stars. It was written in the stars, and it said, "Craigslist won't kill you, but you will find your band here."
Wow,
Said.
what an incredible story. I mean, this is outstanding. So getting into the albums that were the most influential to you, I'm going to go through chronological order to make things a little bit more easier and to flow a little bit better, because obviously you discover them through chronological order. At least that's what I'm assuming that it happened. So let's start off with Linkin Park, Hybrid Theory, their debut album. I have the CD, by the way. I bought it when it first came out.
Oh my gosh, me too.
You're not alone. This when I heard this album, it blew me away at that time. I don't think there was anything even remotely close to how this record sounded. How did you discover the band? How did you discover the album? What's the story behind this record, and why is it an impactful album for you?
I mean, when you're a kid in the 90s and there's no internet at that time, I mean, and you had radio, and radio played crap music all the time. But MTV at that time still played music videos. And there was a time that MTV had like pretty decent music videos. I think it was like this, like after school rocks or something, but they played more like hard rock music videos. And I just happened to, I was like, I think 7 or 8 when I first listened to them. And I just knew when I was like jumping in front of the TV, not sure what was happening. I just knew that was the vibe for me. Like, you know, you hear the music and it's like, yeah, that's my vibe, man. I dig it.
Yeah, that's your jam.
That's my jam. And I think I was listening to Crawling first. And it was a mixture between like listening to Linkin Park and Britney Spears at that time. But I think that was the band that really got me into metal and scream vocals. And you can say that was kind of like the gateway album into other bands as well. And so that really influenced me in terms of the music I liked, even the way I dressed and the art that I liked too, because they are not only incredible musicians, but they're great artists as well, like Mike Shinoda. He's a great artist. And I actually had the bootleg copy of Frat Party at the Pancake Festival. I don't know if you've heard of that documentary.
No, I haven't heard. It sounds interesting.
It's actually pretty good. So it's like it's basically it shows that their time on the road, touring with Deftones, and that's how I found out about Deftones as well. And there was a time that, you know, people thought that I was being influenced by bad things because I liked music like that. And I remember that because of all the judgment I received from people around me, my parents got really mad. And I think like one of the worst punishments or like threats they did was like threatening to break my Frat Party at the Pancake Festival DVD. It's like, you know, I can handle a lot of things. You know, I wasn't like, you know, I was not an angel growing up, but I can handle like, you know, punishment or whatnot, you know. But when it came to breaking that DVD, I was like, no. I remember like it was like running after like your puppy that's about to fall off a waterfall, just like no.
Well, and
So
plus it was bootleg. I mean, it was probably hard to get it to begin with, and then to have it destroyed would be I mean, it would completely shatter you, because it's not
It
like
would.
you probably could get another copy just by going to a store around the corner.
At that time, no. And that was like more rare too, because it's like a documentary about a metal band, like a bootleg copy in Malaysia, like like it was a gem. So I remember that. But
You
good
look,
times.
when you look back at Linkin Park, and specifically Hybrid Theory, has that album held up in your eyes? Is it still as relevant now as it was back in 2000 when it was released?
Oh, I think so. They were as one of the first bands that really had a mishmash of genres and really showed me how progressive music can be. And even today, there are people that try to emulate that, but it isn't as fresh as that album when it first came up. And I still think it holds really well today because it's a lot of their songs are really catchy.
Yeah, they created songs that were catchy, that were hooky, but at the same
Yeah.
time, when you look at the lyrics on that album, it's really heavy as far as the lyrical content, the messages in the songs. And then if you think about what has happened to Chester, and the struggles that he had in his life, that album was almost like a diary of everything that he had gone through. And so I think it's a remarkable record, and a record that really will stand the test of time. I don't think it matters if you talk about it now or 20 years from now. That album is still going to be an incredible record.
I think so. And I think it means that album has meant a lot to many people, especially when there isn't a lot of exposure for metal or rock bands at that time. I mean, it really helps like broaden people's horizons, like what music can be, how much energy can be in it. A big part of it is because of their vocalist, Chester, who was my introduction to scream vocals.
So the next album on your list is The Chariot, Long Live. Came out in 2010. It's their fourth studio album. What is about this record, and when did you discover this band and this album specifically?
So I still remember the first time I first heard this album. Throughout my teenage years, like I listened to a lot of like harsher bands like System of a Down as well. But I think this band was my introduction to and the start of my hardcore kid era. And it was introduced to me by my first boyfriend who introduced me a lot of really great bands. But I remember we were like going to the grocery store and like he put this album on, and it wasn't even like the song didn't even start, but it was the start of the album, and you could hear all this feedback of these guitars that went uh, no, we're not connecting to the internet here.
It's not a modem.
Yeah, it's not a modem. It's a metal modem, you can say. But I listened to that. I'm like, wow, this is very attention grabbing. And then I heard it. And then Josh Gogan, their vocalist, started screaming. And I just knew that would. Do you ever have those moments where you listen to an album and then you just know like, I'm gonna love this. I know that this is going to be something I'm gonna be spinning a lot.
Yeah.
And that became one of my albums that I just really loved the way that he screamed and just the constant energy he had behind his voice. And that was the album that made me really get more serious about scream vocals. The song Evan Perks, that was my audition song when I joined Vintersea. And I think I have a copy of it somewhere. It is awful. Like it was like the first song.
I was going to say you should release it now.
Yeah, like just kind of like a before after. Not just like it's not really a look how much I've grown, it's more of like a look how much I sucked.
I like that way of thinking.
I mean, it was I love the whole album start to finish. And yeah, I actually recorded that song back in Malaysia before I moved to Oregon, like right before, because I didn't know if I were to be able to do any scream vocals or to record anything, because I was going to be living in the dorms and I don't want to like scare everyone like right off the bat. So I actually recorded that song first, and then I was prepared for that Craigslist post that was written in the stars.
Exactly. See, everything goes full circle. So
Yeah.
from that album, from that band, The Chariot, do you feel like, what is the element from that band that impacted you the most? Was it the style of vocals that the record had, or was it the way the sound and the way the album was constructed that really drove the vocals to be as aggressive as they were on that record?
It's all about the energy and the vibe. I really love the way that they went crazy on stage. If you see some of their live videos, the Chariot is one of those bands that it kind of almost breaks my heart that I'll never get to see them live because they're not together anymore. Because I just watching them, it's just pure, unadulterated energy that's just so authentic and so powerful that like that's what I want to always have in my music, be it the music that I listen to or the music that I make.
Is
So
that,
I
yeah.
love the album. It's a great, it's a good one. It's a good one.
All right. So the next one on your list is Rolo Tomassi with Cosmology, their second album, prog mathcore. First of all,
Yes.
explain to me, what is mathcore? Is that a bunch
So
of hardcore kids doing complicated math problems? Is that
I would say it's, I mean, as much as like your fingers will allow, right? Mathcore in my understanding and what my experience is when there are offbeat, off tempo sort of counting in the music. And it's in a way that when you first casually listen to it, you can bob your head to it. But the amount of times they play certain things, it's like it could be like 5 and then 7 and then 5 times for like when it comes to different riffs. Honestly, that's something that like I am still learning, but it's fun to try to decipher and like unlock what they're trying to do. So I loved that album. I think the biggest part of that album to me and really changed how I felt about things was their vocalist, Eva Spence.
so? What about it? Was it something that you wanted to emulate, or something that you saw that you could take it and kind of make it of your own?
So in this day and age, when it comes to female vocals in metal, I'm really thankful that the tides are changing and people's perspectives are also changing and being more open to aggressive female vocals. And it's thanks to bands like Ginger, for example. They're just popping right now. I didn't have Ginger back in the day, but I would say they were my Ginger, my version of it, because that was the first time I've ever heard of any woman doing harsh vocals. Like
Oh,
I've
I
always
so
like,
I see. I see where you're coming from. So it had that impact of almost telling you, hey, you can do this as well.
yes, someone that like looks like you and like I think she's is maybe is petite like me. I mean, I wouldn't know, but it was like a woman doing it, and I think that really changed my mind because she wasn't just doing like the harsh vocals. She's also, her voice is so beautiful, and she did all of that in like really feminine dresses and like blouses and all, and that really influenced like when I first started out. I'm like, you don't have to look a certain way or have be a certain demographic to love and perform and write metal. And I think when I first started out, like I was kind of emulating that a little bit. Our first tour, I wore nothing but like sundresses and just like while doing our music and everything. But yeah, it was one of those albums that if I'm having a bad day, like I'll just put it on and it takes you on such a journey because it just encompasses so many different vibes in it.
Going back to what the point that you're making in terms of women in metal and fronting bands, the progression I think has been tremendous from where we were 20 years ago to where we are now. It's like it's night and day. You still see some roadblocks, even though the progression has been tremendous, even though that the doors are opening, you know what I mean? People are not shutting down the doors because of who you are or how you look like when you're fronting a band. But you still feel like while we've progressed so much, there's still so much more that needs to be done.
I think so. I mean, even though like there are bands with female vocals that are really doing so well right now, I think there is still a lot of perception, because a lot of people are still very much in their comfort zone or what they think is right or wrong in the metal scene. And even though there's a lot of opportunity for ladies in metal right now, there's still a lot of stigma. I still receive a lot of stigma because there's a lot of double standard. Because it's when it comes to ladies in metal, where it's and lady performers, there's just a lot more that women can bring. I mean, in terms of not just like your vocals, but like you can bring a lot of like style to it, a sense of femininity.
Femininity.
I just have to say it really fast. And it's something that's really different that's brought to metal, but there are a lot of lady listeners in metal, and I think there's still a lot of underrepresentation of women in metal.
Is it perhaps one of those stigmas that people discredit at some? I'm not saying everybody, but there are some people that discredit the talent that you guys have. You guys, when I mean you guys, I mean you as female singers fronting these metal bands, discredit you guys a little bit and take away the credit and the hard work and the knowledge and everything that you guys bring to the table, just because they say, oh, it's another pretty face, and that's why people are listening to, not necessarily from all the work that you put into your vocals, into your craft. You feel that sometimes that's still there?
I think maybe for like certain people, there may be a little bit of intimidation when it comes to females in metal, because there's a stigma and perception that a lot of women rely on things other than music to when it comes to gaining their popularity or whatnot. But I think it's a perception that's really skewed, because women bring something different to the metal scene. So you can't really compare like apples to apples and oranges to oranges, because it's just another form of expression if women are showing their feminine side and bringing that forward in their art as well.
Yeah, I don't think you can block one from the other. I mean, you are who you are. Do you know what I mean? Like the where you were born, your upbringing, the road that you've taken from where you started to where you are makes you who you are as a person, and therefore it impacts who you are as an artist.
Yeah.
I don't think we could expect you to be something that you're not. I mean, if we did, then we're not getting who you are. Then
Exactly.
that's not the real product. That's not who you really become as a person and as an
It
artist.
wouldn't be art anymore.
No,
like telling an artist that they should do something or shouldn't do something. Like it's someone's freedom of expression and individual freedom of expression.
I agree with you 100%. I think that if I went to a show and you were wearing a sundress, I couldn't care two shits about it. I mean, that's who you are, and that represents who you are. I'm there to hear you sing. Do you know what I mean? I'm not there to judge you on your fashion sense. You know what I mean? Like, so I honestly think that when people look at from that perspective, I think they're denying something else, and I think they're just trying to find validation for their points, even though they have no point whatsoever. I think that it comes down to that.
Yeah, I think so. But hey, things are changing, and I'm really thankful that like the thoughts and mind horizons of our listeners, or just metal listeners in general, it's expanding, because that's the way that I think it really would benefit everyone, is if everyone just kind of, just do what you want to do. And if you don't like it, you don't have to immerse yourself in it. Like, there's something for everyone.
That's one of the funny things about the world we live now, is that when people don't like something, they feel the need to let you know that they don't
Yeah.
like it. I mean,
Yeah, we call them trolls, don't we? Damn trolls.
I say this all the time. Listen, I don't like certain things. Guess what? I don't spend my time debating the fact that I don't like it. I just don't do it. Like I say to my son all the time, I don't like Wendy's. So guess what? I'm not going to go to Wendy's, buy the food, and then complain on how crappy it is.
Have you tried their salad though?
I'm not a big fan of anything that they have. I'm just not a fan. And speaking of expanding your horizons, let's move into a whole new continent, which is Australia, with Obliviscaris, Portal of Eye. Now, this is their debut record. These guys, have you seen these guys live, by the way?
Yes.
And before we talk about the record, what was your perception when you saw them live?
So I've actually seen them live twice now. The first time was with my whole not my whole band, but like it's 4 out of 5 people of Vintersea was actually at the first show. Everyone but Carl. But Carl was probably like, I don't know, he's probably like busy shooting a music video or something. So that was a great show. Just because I love their music, and it's just such a great experience to hear it really loud live, and also to see them do it. The second time we had the opportunity to share the stage with them, so that was pretty cool, because I would have gone to the show anyway.
Wow, that must have been a cool experience to have been able to perform on that same bill.
Yeah, that I enjoyed that show, both playing and watching. And
Yeah.
it's really cool to have people that you really look up to also be there and listen to you and watch you play live too.
Did you fanboy a little bit, or fangirl in this case, a little bit
Yeah,
with the guys in the band?
definitely. I don't really get very shy, but
I don't think you as
definitely
a
was
shy
a little
person.
shy around them.
I don't believe you. I don't think you're shy at all.
I was definitely a little bit nervous. I mean, it was kind of like more hanging around and just like hoping I don't like trip over or anything, because I was like, oh my gosh, like these are people that I really look up to as musicians, as people, as artists.
Wow. Did you ask them any questions or for any tips or anything like that?
I don't even remember the conversation very well. I was kind of like there, and they were just talking, and I was like, wow, I'm actually seeing this person talk in real life. Like, we're sharing the same room and space.
And
Like, you
oxygen.
talk about fangirling. I was fangirling.
So going back to the album Portal of Eye, when did you discover the record, and what was about this specific album and Obliviscaris in general that impacted you?
Yeah, I think that was the album that really set the bar for a lot of albums that I've listened to after that. A lot of it's because of the musicianship. There's so much intricacies in their music. It's a concept album as well. I love Portal of Eye also because it was the album that I actually really got into playthroughs, because they were such great musicians. I really just enjoyed watching them play, because it's so technical. It was also my leeway into listening to more black metal, because they are an atmospheric progressive death metal band. Wow, that's a mouthful.
Yeah. They're a little bit all over the place.
Yeah, and I really love that, because when it comes to emotions, sometimes emotions go all over the place, and when music is reflecting really intense emotions, sometimes it's really cool when like it just takes you in all types of directions.
And Zen is such a, he's such a strong vocalist. He, for a band, they're kind of they have like this dichotomy of effects, because they're progressive in their sound, they're very technical in their sound, they have this almost beautiful atmospheric image to some of their songs, and then Zen comes in and he inserts this goth black metal atmosphere into a little bit of the songs, and it kind of morphs their tracks and takes them into these weird dark places that people normally don't want to talk about. So I find that ability that they have to be absolutely all over the map, but at the same time always keeping their DNA intact, one of the key
Yeah.
elements to how good they really are.
And Zen, he is a true artist, like through and through. So it's not only a great lyricist who comes up with a lot of the concepts of the album, great guttural voice, but he's also a fantastic artist. He handles a lot of the artwork for Obliviscaris, and we this is one of those albums that was also really influential to the band as well. It's one of the band's favorite albums, and we love everything that they put out. And we actually got into contact with Zen, and Zen did our artwork for Illuminated. So the cover artwork with the lady in the pod, that was done by Zen. And he also designed the newest shirt that we have for Crack of Light. So it's really cool to see the progression of the relationship as well, being someone that, you know, it's a band that we really loved, and going to their show and playing at their show, and then having a contact and a friend in the band too.
Yeah.
So that has been an album that has definitely been very influential, but for me, but also for Vintersea
in general. Wow, really interesting. So the last album on your list, this was a last minute addition. I think we can share that. We're not gonna say who we took off the list, because that would be mean.
Yeah.
But the last album is Periphery with Periphery II. Why did you feel, once again, we're not going to talk about who you took out, because I think that would be super mean. But,
okay, that's okay.
But what was about this record that you're last minute like, no, you know what? We cannot have this list without have Periphery on it. We have to somehow find a little bit of a home for Periphery, and let's put this record there.
That was one of those albums that I was thinking about what are the most influential. And I mean, I had to take off the other album, because this Periphery II album is the only album, I would say, out of all albums that I've like listened to, that from the first time I've listened to them, I probably spin their music at least once every week or two still today. Like, it has so much playability, and it's one of those albums that, you know, you've had those when you're feeling, you know, a little lethargic or down. There's when you have that like one TV show that just sort of like comforts you. This is like my comfort album, because I just know that if I listen to it, even if I'm having a good day, bad day, if I need to like get hyped up for an interview, I actually listened to them this morning. I mean, I really, really love that album. It really shaped my taste in music in terms of the vocals, in terms of music. They're the reason why I'm like really trying to to play guitar like a 7-string, like really whatever Periphery does, like that's what I'm trying to do or trying to emulate, because I love their noodliness, their energy. I know this is kind of one of those things that's a little bit polarizing. Hopefully not as polarizing as like pineapple on pizza, but
that's not polarizing. That's not polarizing at all. I love pineapple and pizza.
Oh no, you do not.
It's my favorite. Hawaiian is my favorite. Absolutely my favorite.
Hey, but we said, right? I mean, good for you. You know, you like what you want, and that's okay. That's okay.
At least I don't drink chocolate milk with my pizza. I have a friend of mine who drinks chocolate milk with pizza. I don't know how those two worlds even come remotely close to each other. So
I want to know that story. That's a little wild. That's living on the wild side.
I
Do they
agree.
also like pineapple on pizza?
I normally has just the pepperoni one with his hot chocolate, with his
Okay.
chocolate milk.
Okay. Maybe it helps bring the grease down. Cuts the grease. Who
I
knows?
don't know. For me, it's a strange mix, but you know,
Yeah.
but I like pineapple on pizza. So who am I to judge?
Yeah. And who am I to judge too, right? I mean, everyone, the different strokes for different folks.
Yeah.
But that album has always been a constant, and I've loved it since it came out. I actually watched them once live, and that wasn't enough. Their previous vocalist, Chris Barretto, is also one of my all-time biggest vocal influence, and just for the fact that like both of them, and even Spencer too, like they can stretch their voice so far, and that's something that I try, that's something I try to do, is trying to stretch and see what you can do with your vocals. And I think Spencer, like I have heard things that like people don't really like his vocals, but it just blows my mind, because I think he is basically holy grail, at least IMO. I love his the way that he just does everything.
Now you said something. I don't think you finished your thought, but because you started by saying this may be a little bit polarizing. So what about Periphery? Do you feel like it's a little bit?
Spencer.
Oh, you feel like he's polarizing?
Yeah, I hear a lot of people like just they can't do the Spencer Sotelo voice. Unfortunately for them, they're lost.
I love that. Unfortunately for them, it's all their problem, really.
Yeah. Yeah, and even their music definitely still influences me today. I was actually listening to their music this morning, and there's this the song "Make Total Destroy." There he goes really high. There's this one really high scream that definitely influenced one of the screams in Befallen, when he just goes really high. I'm like, I could do it now, but do I want to? It'd be pretty loud.
So that's what drove you to use that style, that approach in that song.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Periphery for you, they're like the soul food music for the soul, I guess.
For the soul.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
I still that album I think has one of the best introductions of all time. Like the way it starts, because it's like it starts out with a little bit of a him singing, and then it just goes like bass drop.
And you're hooked.
Yeah, so many hooks.
Yeah, yeah. I
So
think
many hooks.
they're definitely super talented and diverse band. I think they're one of those bands. I mean, you can call them a prog metal band. Obviously, that's the genre that they fall in. But sometimes I feel like certain genres are not enough to really define what the bands are doing, and they're one of those bands that kind of like. I don't think they see themselves as a band that we have boundaries. We just do whatever the fuck we want to do.
Yeah, and that's I think a true key of an artist is just you, and that's the thing about artists too, is that you almost have to be a little bit brave about the choices that you make, because it's a lot of times it's art, it's subjective, it's not going to please everyone, but you really have to like go past like bad feedback you may receive, and just stay true to who you are, because if you stay true and the people like what you do, then those are the listeners that will continue to follow and support you on the journey.
100%. I agree with you 100%. So now that we've gone through the list, I only have one question left for you for our chat. It's coming to an end, to a bittersweet end, and that is what's next in store for the fans of Vintersea? What are you guys working on that you can share?
Well, I want to say that we are getting ready for a tour or a show, because that would be amazing, but not at this time, unfortunately. But we are doing our best with continuing to put forward material for our listeners. Right now, we are having some plans to go back to the studio to record some playthroughs of our music, like a studio live recording. So if you hear this, this will be like the first time you're hearing about it. And the first time we are actually mentioning it. So that will be really exciting, because I think a lot of people see me and like, they probably think, you know, it's all auto tune and and all, but it's real stuff. Like, I really do the stuff, and you'll be able to see that, at least for the naysayers and the trolls.
And the trolls.
And the trolls.
And the trolls. We can't forget the trolls. I like that idea. I really like those concepts of doing like almost like a live studio, similar to what Ginger did with Pisces.
Yes.
With that video. I like that stuff because it kind of gives you a little bit of a glimpse behind the curtain of how it is to put a track like that together. It feels stripped out, but at the same time, it still feels like it has all the elements that the song carries. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I like those ideas. I think it's a nice way of revamping and recreating something that you guys have done already.
I think so. And especially at this era where we can't be playing shows, that we have to find another way to show that, you know, we're still here and when we're still playing the music. And I think it will be also mentally good for us in the band too, because we have been just we're all over we're over this whole thing, because I mean, it really changed the music industry. But it's we got to keep pushing forward. So we're working on that. We're working on our next music video as well. Can't tell you which one yet.
You know, we're gonna end up checking it out. I mean, like we've made almost a point of checking out every single video you guys release. Since we've discovered the band through a Patreon request, we've kind of embarked on this quest of checking out more and more. And we never disappoint. I mean, we're never disappointed with the video. We always find the video super artistic, really well crafted, really well done. But more important than the video is the content that's within the video, which is you guys performing. And every song that we've checked out one of your videos, we're always blown away by how good they are, how good the song is, the structure, the sound, where the vocals are coming in, you know, the guitars, the drums. Like you guys are super tight and very talented. And I think if there's one great thing that we've been able to do is at least discover your music and perhaps share it with others that didn't know who you guys were before.
Wow, thank you so much for that, because we really put so much of ourselves in these music videos, and it really is a labor of those videos are Vintersea. Our bassist Carl is a fantastic videographer, and he has a team that helps us with the music videos, but we're also very heavily involved with each music video when it comes to writing out the story, when it comes to building the set and the costumes. So in Crack of Light, we actually built a 20-foot boat to be brought out to the desert that's like an 8-hour drive. And all of us, I think everyone had like a period of time where we worked on the boat. So we're not like, you know, having other people like you know, do these things for us, except our amazing supportive friends and family that help us with some like making everything happen. But it definitely all it comes from the band.
It's all the sweat, blood, and tears from you guys. Yes.
Even with our album, just everything we put out is very much us. It's not someone telling us what to do. Our label M-Theory has been so amazing with letting us have that autonomy in the band to really be authentic and produce what we make, like when it comes to music videos and our music.
Well, it comes through. I can tell you that much. From a viewer, listener perspective, it really comes through. So thank you for putting all that effort. It's going to pay off in the end.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And as long as people are still, you know, digging it and all, we'll still be doing it.
That's great.
Because it's fun. Actually, if people don't, even if people, you know, if for whatever what reason, like if suddenly no one like watched it, which will be a little bit sad, we would still be doing it because it's something we've always loved to do, even when we first started. And before like we started gaining any traction, we did it because we love doing it, because we love the art, because we love metal.
It's good. It's good. It shows. It shows that love, that passion really comes through in the music and in everything that you guys do, the videos, everything. Well, Avienne, I want to thank you very much for your time today. You were an absolute blast. I still don't believe that you were shy during those Obliviscaris shows, but I just don't think it's in you. I don't think that's in you, but thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it. It was an absolute pleasure to have this conversation, get to know you a little bit better, know a little bit more about your background, how you got into music, your favorite records. So all I can really say is just thank you. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for having me and letting me talk about some of my favorite albums here as well. And this was a fun convo. I think we covered a lot of material here that is beyond the music. So that was really cool. Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you very much. All the best for you and the guys. Say hi to everybody for me. And we'll be keeping our eyes stuck to your channels so that when you guys release something new, either be those studio recordings or a new video, whatever it is that you guys do, that we'll make sure that we'll check it out on our channel as well.
Thank you so much. That all sounds great.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Take care. Bye.